now a word from our sponsor, Anchor.fm. Here's the deal. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's one of the easiest ways to create a podcast. Let me start. In my first episode ever, I talked about fear. And fear comes from a lot of places, one of them being able to access technology. But Anchor FM is free. It's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. They'll even distribute it for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch more. And guess what? The coolest thing is they even connect you with sponsors if you want at no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So here's the deal. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, go to anchor.fm to get started or search in your app library for anchor.fm. All right. In yesterday's episode, I talked a lot about fear and why fear holds us back. But now I also want to talk about how fear can be an extremely great motivator, and not the only one. For a lot of us, fear drives our lives and, in essence, helps to keep us alive. That being said, fear should only be leveraged as a short-term motivator. What that means is fear is not sustainable if you're using it as the only motivator. Why am I bringing this up? Because often when we're dealing with managers, when we're dealing with bosses, when we're dealing with leaders, they look at fear and they use it as a tool ultimately 90% of the time to make sure you're doing what you need to do. And I'm a big proponent of understanding the use of management tools and leadership styles in order to get the most out of your team. For those of you who don't know, I think I shared with you, I run 5 companies. Each of these 5 companies has a slightly different culture and extremely different motivations and missions. But at the end of the day, the one thing that is consistent in all of those is me. And the biggest thing about that is I don't use fear or threats to motivate 100% of the time. You can't. Have I done it before? Of course. Like I said, fear can be an extremely great motivator for me personally, as well as for other people in the company. There was a time where I had a business and the only thing we had available at that moment in time were ourselves, because we had taken all the cash we had and dumped it into trying to build and scale and grow this thing. And when I explained to the team that there were $0 left in the bank, there was nothing. All of a sudden, something happened that was magical. The complacency that was there before, the challenges that they once thought were challenges were no longer talked about, and they were overcome. The abilities and skill levels all of a sudden seemed to increase overnight. And you know what? The company was fine. So the point of this is that I want to be sure all of you understand and realize fear can be a great driving factor in short bursts. At the end of the day, though, understand that if you're consistently beating people over the head with fear, hate, doubt, all of that, all of those tools, they can't be, they're not going to last. They're not going to stick, and it's going to end up costing you more in the long run because you're going to lose people. Even if this is for yourself, you're going to burn yourself out if you continue to use fear for yourself as the only way to motivate yourself. And that sounded kind of weird because I think I said yourself about 4 times in a sentence. All right. I wanted to keep this one short today, but I did want to make sure that everybody understood. Fear is not necessarily a bad thing, but fear Fear can't be the only thing, right? And use it in short bursts when needed, but understand that the consistency of fear being used will burn you out, it'll burn others out, it'll burn your brand out, it'll burn your family out, it'll burn everything out. And so, with that, I'll leave you with that thought today. I know in the future we are going to talk a little bit more about fear. I've got some other great stories to share with you on that front. And since one of the big topics that I do want to cover in this is leadership and management, I know it's going to be important to our discussions. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll leave you with a word from our sponsor, Anchor FM.